Sometimes when I'm thinking about us, before we got lost and we parted, back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight. This time we're not safe and sound, not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. Sometimes when I'm reasoning about us, I know you got me, it's so effortless. Back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight. This time we're not safe and sound, not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me?
Welcome to the FPV News. We're going to bring you all the latest news in the world of FPV. Hey, Blunty, good to be with you today.
Hey, Joshua. How's it going?
Good. I'm actually, it's going very well because look what I can't tell. Look what's behind me.
Oh,
This is newsworthy.
Bamboo printer I see.
Yeah, I did some prints. I just started doing some test prints. This is a 24-minute benchy. Oh, if that means, if you're into 3D printing, that means something to you. It's I'm pretty impressed so far. 25 minutes after I opened the box, I was printing this benchy. So I'm super psyched about that. I don't know if that's newsworthy, but it's news to me. And I'm very, very excited about it. What other news? What like actual FPV related news, not just Bardwell got a 3D printer. What have we got?
We've got some DJI news people might be excited about, and then some DJI news that other people might be excited about on the other side of the DJI issue.
Do we have any news that isn't related to DJI?
Of course we do. We also got
Oh, that's good.
maybe the first Sbang video ever. We're gonna look at
Yes.
that.
Oh, yes. Not joking. What might be the first Sbang video ever released. We're going to show it to you. Some Kabab poked his head up. He's like a little groundhog that pokes his head up, posts a video, and blows everybody's mind. So that's nice. And we got a follow-up about you remember that story about James Benson, the guy who got like the lawyer and the cop he lived next door to like arrested him for flying over his house, and he was suing the city, and he did it like a $40,000, $25,000, whatever dollar. We got a follow-up on that. So got lots of good stuff today. As well, we're going to do a plug for... Oh, no. Hang on, I've screwed up. I've screwed up the... There we go. Also, oh my goodness. embarrassing. Hang on. I have to fix this. There we go. Okay. Whew. Okay. The world is okay now.
Gotta fix the title.
Yeah. As well, we've got we're going to do later in the show, we're going to tell you about today's sponsor, Keto Chow. But save that for later. Let's start off, though, as we always do, with some public service announcements. If you're one of the people who's affected by one of these things, you're going to want to know about it because it could be a big deal.
All right. Yeah, the first thing is going to be the SD card issue in Betaflight 441. And this is really, this is actually quite an issue. Because if you have a SD card that you use for black box logging in Betaflight on your FC, in 441 it may not be working. There's some issues with it. Okay. However, the issue is 442 is not out yet, and 440 has a bug with H7s where the ADC does not work. Oh. So you're going to make a decision here whether you have your SD card working or ADC working on an H7.
What kind of things is the ADC used for?
The voltage, right? I believe.
Voltage sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you won't have voltage sense on 440 on an H7, or you won't have SD card on 441 on H7. But I know this is fixed in 442, so hopefully that'll be out relatively soon. The milestone looks done. So.
Okay, so if you have an H7 flight controller, like the SP Racing H7 is one of them, I think the Kakute H7 is another. If you have one of those flight controllers with an H7 on it, Betaflight don't work for you. Has Betaflight 4.4 been a little bit of a buggy release? I feel like it might be a little buggy. Maybe I'm just forgetting all the bugs that were in the previous versions.
Yeah, not that I know of offhand, but maybe that's the case. And we have one other PSA today.
I'm gonna sneeze. Yeah.
And the other PSA is that we've talked about the Radiomaster issue with the XT30 port a couple times now. Basically, if you plug your Radiomaster Ranger Micro or Nano, the ones that are not the fancy one with the screen, and with an XT30 battery, you will fry your radio. They have released some information to let you know if you pick one of these up and you were wondering if you're affected. The unaffected ones, the new ones with the new boards, say V1.6, what we're showing you on the screen here with the sticker on the bottom of them.
Very nice.
And that means you are safe according to support to be used that XT30 as you would expect.
Yeah, I still am not really sure what the motivation is for using the XT30. I mean, I guess if you have like the Zorro where the internal battery is super small, you really want something. But like, the traditional reason for using the external battery is if your radio can't provide enough power to the module bay for a high-powered module, like the original Crossfire 1 watt was one of the first ones to do this. But most radios today will do. I guess I shouldn't assume everybody's using a modern radio. Somebody out there with a X9D is using one of these, and I guess they need an external battery.
Yeah, or maybe you just think you want it so you draw less from the internal. Maybe you make it last longer when it's out in the field or something. Yeah, and maybe you made that mistake in Friday radio. So hopefully you get that figured out. We talked before about they're working on getting those boards out. I believe I heard Pyrodrone got a shipment of those boards in, and they're distributing them. And yeah, those are going around. The other thing we've got to show you is, maybe you can take advantage of the situation if you did get affected. We know they're sending out new boards to customers, and you can get replacements for these, like we've talked about. So if you still got that old board and you want to use it without the XT30, working on it, we've got a print for you here where you can slap it in a new case, and maybe you can get a second module out of that with a little bit more limited functionality.
I had some hesitation over whether I wanted to share this, but it's out there, and so it's, I guess, fine to share it. But I think a risk of doing this is that you take that defective board that if someone plugs in an XT30, it will fry the radio. And then you slap it in a nice 3D printed case and you go ahead and you use it, and it gets out into the world and somebody doesn't know. So I feel like if you were going to use this project, it would be responsible to disable the XT30 in some way. Maybe you would desolder it from the board. Maybe you would fill it up with epoxy. But in some way, make it so that it's very difficult or impossible for someone to accidentally fry their radio. But then other than that, this is a perfectly good module. is a perfectly good module and is functional in every way as long as you don't use the XT30. So,
yeah.
Okay. It's your civic duty to disable it, says One Eye FPV. Yeah. I just have this thought of all of the people who bought this module printing up these covers, and now people there's all these like deadly traps waiting to go off and fry people's radios. Radiomaster going to get blamed for it.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. Okay, those are our public service announcements. And now we will get on with the actual news. And as is traditional, we'll be starting with news about DJI because everyone loves DJI.
Yeah, we've got some fairly big DJI news. I mean, it's not like super FPV related, but it is in some way because the DJI Goggles 2 and the DJI Integra Goggles Integra today, which are basically the two with that strap on the back and the battery moved. If you don't remember that, those newer goggles just got support added today for the Mavic 3 Pro, the Mavic 3, Mavic 3 Classic, and the Mini 3 Pro, which is kind of neat, the Mini 3 on there as well.
Sorry, I keep hitting the wrong button.
Yeah, but one thing people have noticed here, unfortunately, is that the V2 goggles are not included in this. We're only seeing updates for the Goggles 2 and the Integra. So people are wondering, hey, this is cool, we got new features, but is this kind of the death knell of the V2 that people have been waiting on?
It is really cool. I have had people reach out to me and say, hey, I fly a Mavic or I fly a Mini, and I'd like to use these new goggles. What goggles work with them? And the answer has been, nothing, you're screwed. So it is nice to see the DJI added these. Didn't we hear rumors a long time ago that they were going to add Mavic support to the V2 goggles?
We saw images in the goggles on the menu. Yes, to show they were listed in the menu. Yep. And then if you'll remember quite a while back, the V2s actually had code for the Air 2 in them, but was never unlocked. It was just like a development code that had been worked on. So we've seen this happening in the background for a long time. We've been kind of expecting it to happen, but definitely we're wondering, when it was going to come. One thing, it'll be interesting to know if we see, is this because, and we talked about that E3, I think it's the E3D chip. I believe that's the name. That's the chip that enabled H.265 in the Goggles 2, and then kind of enabled that better handling of the signal when it was lower. And maybe that extra horsepower is what they're using to do this. That's why also the Goggles 2 can record the screen, right? Instead of having to record to a file and then overlay OSD and stuff. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see that. But yeah, this is definitely a split for these users.
Yeah, it's so hard to predict what DJI is going to do. When the Goggles 2 came out, you and I don't think we predicted the end of the Vista and the V2 system. I would say we didn't. Some people would say yes, you did.
I will 100% admit we said the V2 goggles were ending at some point because we got that out of a DJI meeting that they had with a vendor that I 100% know happened.
I remember that.
I'm going to guess we saw timeline changes on the back end, and we can only report what we hear officially. So.
Well, and I remember saying, I think that if you are going to buy the V2 system right now, then you have to ask yourself how much longer it's going to be around. And I think there were some people who accused me of scaremongering. And I as something like this happens, granted, the system has been out now for about 6 months, I guess. So maybe the wheels didn't move as fast as we expected. They might. And it sure seems like the Vista video transmitter has been given a new lease on life with O3 support. And the manufacturing from companies like Runcam, for example. Not that they manufacture it, I should say distribution. But it sure seems like the V2 goggles, I've heard from people who say we can't order them anymore. People who run stores or have dealer accounts. They say we can't order them. And it seems like the V2 goggles, if you want a set of V2 goggles, now is the time to think about how you're going to get them. They'll probably be used V2s for a while, but you may not be able to buy them new, even as of today. And firmware support seems to be... The DJI was like, okay, they'll support the O3, and that's it. That's all you're getting.
Yeah. It'll also be interesting to see if we get some other legacy updates for these goggles, as we move on. Like kind of a major update instead of these minor updates that the new goggles will get.
Alrighty. Well, one more piece of DJI news, and this one is for people who dislike DJI and want to see bad things happen to them.
True, because DJI has lost a lawsuit that we didn't even get a chance to report on because it happened so fast. It went from happening to done. Textron has won a $279 million verdict in a patent case against DJI in the U.S. They claim that DJI has essentially used their technologies, including, I believe it's like an auto hover technology. That's one of the specific claims they've had. They denied that obviously they did it, but the jury found them guilty on all counts. So.
This is not how patents work. I mean, like, obviously I'm not a subject matter expert, but a patent could certainly apply to both a military helicopter and a civilian drone. Come on, DJ. Sure. Anyway, they're going to
try to do the best they can to split it, of course.
Yeah. And DJI, of course, will appeal and yada, yada, yada for $279 million. Of course they will.
Yeah. We heard in the original reporting for this story that it was possible that they would not be able to sell these drones anymore that infringed on these patents. And you would kind of assume that if they're having to pay out for past damages, then they would have to stop selling them. And that encompasses a large amount of their drones. So it will be interesting to see if that ends up happening from this, because basically in the summary for damages, where they list the damages for the patents, both patents, they do not list anything like if they have to stop selling or anything. Yeah, anything like that. So we'll have to keep an eye out on the news to know if that is the case.
Yeah, the thinking would be that if the product infringes on the patent, then they would have to work out a licensing agreement in order to, and the judge might issue an order prohibiting current sales until such an agreement was arrived at. It's interesting that they would be found. I mean, maybe it's not interesting. Patent lawyers or experts in the comments could speak up, I guess, if there are any. It seems interesting to me that there would be convicted or found guilty or whatever it is in a civil suit of patent infringement, but then there wouldn't be any sort of effect on their ongoing behavior.
Right. Yeah, I would assume we're just not seeing that, or that's something that comes further in the process, or, one of those pieces of information that we'll get later. So we'll definitely keep an eye on the story and let you know if somehow DJI won't be able to sell it. It would be interesting to find out that after all the argument about DJI for public services and federal administration and all these things, it ended up being that they couldn't sell them because of patent infringement.
I mean, surely DJI would, if they can't win any other way, they would just agree to pay Textron, I don't know, so much money per drone sold and license
the patent. Do that. Maybe Textron goes, we don't want to give it to you. We're military. We don't care about you making money. We don't like you. You're DJI. You're Chinese. Go away. You know what I mean? Like there's a thing a company could do, right?
Yeah. So is Textron publicly traded?
I'm not sure. Textron.
The reason I ask is if they're publicly traded, they might have a fiduciary duty to their shareholders, and turning down a licensing fee from DJI might be in violation of that. They appear to be publicly traded. To me, that would increase the likelihood that they would agree to some kind of a licensing deal. I mean, they might haggle on the price, Yeah. Yeah. Well, very interesting.
Well, actually, all I'm going to say is, isn't there like some kind of investment ban? Like, I mean, I wonder if any of the DJI bans for companies would, like, because U.S. consumers and companies can't put money into DJI. I wonder if there's some kind of like, you can't also give patent deals to them,
Possible. Don't know.
Yeah.
And so you said, is it basically all modern DJI drones that would infringe this patent? Do we know which drones are affected?
I was not able to find an official list, but it was like a list of 12 drones, I think, that they had, and they were modern, like they were Mavic 2 and Mini 3, and like they were a bunch of because all of those have auto hover,
right?
And like,
I mean, lots of drones have auto hover.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of why DJI was like saying they weren't going to lose this, but yeah.
Is this I can't decide whose side I'm on this. I don't really know. I haven't really gone into the details of the case. I certainly have seen cases where a company is granted a patent on a technology that seems just so trivial and obvious and so destructive that they're given the patent. And I'm like, oh, no one should have a patent on this. I can't decide if this... Do you have an opinion?
I mean, not necessarily. I understand. Honestly, I'm not, because we're not patent lawyers, I assume is why, but it's very difficult sometimes for me to understand why patents are granted, how they apply, like why patents from 50 years ago or whatever. So, you know, like what the timelines on these things are. And like some of these things like vaguely apply, and sometimes they have to give partial credit to them. And like sometimes it seems like they drew them without any understanding of how they work. There's a bunch of pieces to patent law that I don't necessarily understand. So I think it's hard for me to give like a judgment on this, but I'm gonna guess if they had some kind of patent in the books, and DJI's got to do that.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
Does Betaflight infringe this patent because it has
Betaflight's
auto
open
level
source, right? So it doesn't matter.
But open source projects can infringe patents. I mean, you're not going to get any damages.
They're not tied to an entity. Like, so does that mean they have to get taken down somehow? What entity?
It's
GitHub. Like, I don't know how that works.
I don't know, but I mean, just because someone is not making money by if I infringe your patent and I give away the product for free because I don't like you and I want to nuke your business, I'm still infringing the patent, and I can be sued and I can be prohibited from distributing the product that violates the patent. It seems obvious to me.
The distribution that's the problem?
I don't know. Okay. I mean, it would be the production. I don't know. Again, we're not patent lawyers. I'm just wondering if is this a patent on auto level, right? At which point that's silly.
Auto hover is the term they used.
Oh, well, Betaflight. Okay, INAV then. INAV is infringing. Roborito says that they are a patent attorney. Maybe Roborito will weigh in the Discord and we can roll back around to this. But in the meantime, let's move on from bad news for DJI to good news for all of us, because we got a new video from Kabab. Kabab FPV. He hasn't been posting a lot.
Vibration is one of the biggest enemies to the crafts that we fly. It's the reason why many of our crafts fly inconsistently. We don't know why one craft flies well and another one doesn't.
He's like the David Attenborough of FPV. I really dug the opening to this video. Simple, right to the point. Where should we... This is like a 15-minute video, Blunty. Where should we focus?
I kind of just figured we'd give like an overview, you know, just say like, you know, Kabab hasn't posted a video in a while. Bob Rugi, if people don't know, he's a dentist and quad builder and an experimenter, I would say, is his main role lately. Has been really trying to figure out, like, you know, and obviously make good motors and frames and stuff, but he's been really experimenting a lot continually with different ways to build drones, different arm counts and configurations and sizes and stacking and solutions, right, to vibration is his business big thing for a long time. So he is more, you know, he'll say it in his own words, but he's more of like he's non-traditionally thinking about like FEA analysis in the computer, and he thinks there's other ways to solve these problems. And so he's doing a lot of experimenting to try to figure out ways to solve these problems. Like one way we can see here is with the steel cable that's stretched across the arms for rigidity through the bottom plate there. And he's done other things like stacking, you know, even I think he stacked 2 pieces of 6mm carbon together for arms. He's been doing trying a lot of different things. Vibration isolation, like dampeners again, instead of standoffs.
Yeah, one of the things he talks about in this video is the challenge of repeatability. He talks about how you can have, you know, you could build 3 or 4 or 5 of the exact same quad, and, you know, depending on the way the frame is designed, 3 of them will fly well and 2 of them will fly like crap, and you won't really know why. And this is interesting because I think it really highlights a difference between the way somebody like Chris Rosser approaches thinking about frame design and somebody like Kabab does. Chris Rosser puts the stuff in the computer, does the finite element analysis, and then says, okay, this is a good design. And not that Chris Rosser doesn't test his stuff in the real world. Obviously, he does. But Bob is looking at multiple builds and saying, can we get consistent results out of this, not just in the computer, but after it goes through machining, after the carbon fiber comes from the factory. That's certainly an area where Bob focuses a lot in the real world, whereas it feels like Chris's stuff is a little more theoretical, at least to me. I'll say that.
Yeah, I think some interesting things, takeaways from this, like, you know, he has a different philosophy on, like, basically filtering. You know, he talks a lot in this about lowering the noise floor. And whereas Chris Rosser would tell you, you know, his goal is to remove frequencies that are harder frequencies to filter. Right? Like, so he's moving, his attempt, when Chris Rosser talks about this, his attempt is moving things up with FEA so that he can get vibrations up here, or I'm a camera, but up here on the chart, right? Instead of down at the bottom where there's, it's harder to filter because your low passes are cutting out a bunch up here and a little bit down here. And this takes way, way, way more time, latency to filter out the lower and lower you're going to filter. Where, Kabab just says, hey, if I can cut 20% off the whole noise level, regardless of frequency, that's better. And I agree, that is better. But the question is that better than alternatives trying to eliminate specific frequencies? And, he shows a couple graphs. I'm interested to see, like, he shows, he can get a more consistent showing by adding dampeners. But I'm not sure if that's giving him a better result. Like he talks about it's easier for the program to filter. Try like 1051.
1051, okay.
We can look at his picture here. He shows, so on the left is with standoffs, and the right he puts dampers instead of standoffs. And you see there's a bunch of lines on the left, and we get more defined sets, and there's a smaller set of lines, frequencies on the right. But then the question is, like, is that better, or are those more intense? Are those harder or easier to filter? He says it flies better, and I just wonder why. A lot of things we could analyze out of this, and hopefully he's gathering useful data.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly will say, Black Jungle says, as an engineer and a scientist, I 100% agree with the throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks development. And that definitely feels like what Kabab is doing. He doesn't have any engineering training. He just has a lot of trial and error. And certainly there are a lot of people in the history of inventors who followed that mold and came up with great stuff. It does. I look at some of the stuff Kabab is doing, though, and I'm like, clearly, I mean, this is just a test prototype. No one's gonna build this and assemble this in the real world and have that be their actual flying quad. Another thing he talks about is he thinks that mounting flight controller to the top plate is better for some reason. And I'm like, yeah, but then when you have to take the top plate off to work on the quad, then what? So, like, I don't know where he's going to end up on this, and I don't know how feasible it's going to be for everyday, people. But I dig the idea that he's trying something different and that he's looking for consistency, that he wants to have good results for the most number of people instead of one really, really sort of perfect thing, but that maybe isn't as consistent for a lot of people. It's just nice that he's back.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting idea. If there's some reason why, suddenly we find some magic solution by adding dampers in between the bottom and top plate, having the motors and the frame and the arms be on the bottom plate, and then the top plate's isolated, and then suddenly you get no vibrations because you find the right dampers. I mean, that's great. If we stumble into something like that,
I mean, clean, dirty plate designs are not new. Even Bob acknowledges that in the video, and they sucked because they would just rip apart. Now, obviously, these steel cables aren't going to rip apart, but there certainly are downsides there. If he finds something that he thinks is worth making a commercial project out of, it certainly is worth a look.
And at the end, real quick, I just want to show 1340. We can show.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He's been producing these for a little while. At very, very, very end.
What do we got here? What is this?
Doing these double. Yeah, he's been doing these double layers for the magnets. So they're like offset, and I guess it moves so they're like the poles aren't matched. You know what I mean? Like the magnets are overlaid a little bit, and then they're two stack. I'm not necessarily sure. He doesn't talk much about the pros and cons. He just mentions that he's been doing it, and there's a lot of things behind the scenes that he's been doing for a little while. Like all his motors sold lately have had this design.
I saw a discussion between him and Ryan Harrell, so I'll just repeat the words that they said. Supposedly reduces torque ripple.
Gotcha.
Like as the magnet spins past the stator, there is an increase and decrease in the torque that the motor can make, a notchiness, although I don't know if it directly correlates to notchiness, the motor's under drive. And that by having diagonal magnets, you decrease the torque ripple, but no one will manufacture diagonal magnets, so he started doing these split magnets to sort of emulate a diagonal magnet. And whether that makes a difference you can feel in flight, I don't know, but it's always somebody out there to push the boundaries. All right. Enough about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Next up?
I want to show you. So I wish I could credit whoever it was, like on. Nope, I'm wrong. Wrong story. Continue. Go ahead.
Okay, next up.
Next up,
we've got. We're going to talk about James Benson, who you might remember from way back in 2020. Who went back, who was arrested and banned from flying because he flew over a neighbor's yard, and that neighbor was somebody who basically had power in that area.
Correct. He was not.
Deputy sheriff. So.
Yeah, he was not breaking any rules that we're aware of. Whatever he was accused of was like trespassing or something, and it was basically BS because this guy was a law enforcement officer, and the prosecutor in that area was willing to just run him out on a rail. Found guilty, appealed, raised money via GoFundMe. I helped promote the GoFundMe because I thought it was unfair. Raised what is this GoFundMe up to?
$24,329.
Yeah. So he'd been quiet for a long time, and people were asking, "What's happened? What happened to our money?" Well,
yeah.
Funny you ask that.
Yeah. So he basically, in so many words, says the lawyer that he hired stole all the money from the GoFundMe. He was disbarred, and to avoid legal action, he gave up his ability to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
His name is Chris Hatch, and you can pretty easily Google Chris Hatch's information, and we were able to find Chris Hatch in Louisiana getting disbarred. People
were emailing me and saying this James Benson guy is a liar and a thief. They were accusing James Benson of having stolen the money, and I don't know, but we can't
confirm or deny that. But if you look through the information, we can find a disbarment for Chris Dowd Hatch. Happened in September of last year. Now that was a while ago, but this stuff takes time, of course. So who knows? But basically, he had 11 disciplinary complaints filed against him, and this is his disbarment in lieu of discipline for these 11 counts. I do want to note.
Yeah, go ahead.
Something I want to note in here is that specifically, when you look in this, these basically they say that his resignation does not exonerate him from restitution. So essentially, if you have money that this guy took from you and you weren't part of this specific hearing, you can go get money from him. The question is, how much does that cost? How much does the lawyer to do that cost? How long will that take? There's a bunch of questions about that as well.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, this guy clearly took a bunch of people's money and has been disbarred in Louisiana for that.
So the skeptic in me looked at this disbarment and thought, if I was a con artist and a thief, how would I steal this GoFundMe money? And I thought, okay, I would look on FindLaw for a disbarment notice of an unrelated case, and I would say, my lawyer, so-and-so, stole my money. Yep, here's his disbarment right here. Now, James Benson didn't link to the disbarment. We found that separately, but, okay. But the fact that the judge presiding over the disbarment specifically said that one of the complaints was basically misappropriating client money, and that that the lawyer should be held responsible for that, it supports James Benson's claim that this guy is his lawyer and stole his money. So we don't know for sure, but it sure seems like the fact that we have access to add up to this, and we still don't know what the outcome of James's case will be. But he certainly seems to. Why would the lawyer have? If I raise $25,000 in a GoFundMe, I'm not going to just hand that over to my lawyer. I'm going to put that in the bank, and then the lawyer's going to say, "This month I did this many hours of work. You owe me this much money," and I'm going to pay him. Yep. At that point, he can't steal my money. I mean, I guess he could claim to be doing work he's not really doing. I don't know. Yep. Something has gone wrong here. That's for sure.
Yeah, you claim fees for amounts, or you claim work you didn't do, or you bill, $500 to make 3 copies, or you know what I mean? I'm sure there's shady ways you can bill as a lawyer. I don't think I'm sure it's not difficult to come up with those ways. Get away with it is different, and obviously he's being disbarred. So
yeah. So who knows what the next update will be. Hopefully James Benson can continue to defend himself. But regardless, that is your update.
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to, I kind of want to, we're at right about the midpoint. I kind of want to just jump to the Keto Chow plug because I don't want to get too close to the end of the hour, and we'll save the first Sbang video ever for after. Got to save something good for after the plug. Now let's see if this works, Blunty. Oh, no, but I didn't fill in the text. Oh, no, I'm the worst. Hold on, I got to fix this. This stream brought to you by... I was like, oh, yeah, I got it ready. I forgot. By Keto Chow. https://ketochow.xyz/ref/FPV news for 34% off your starter pack. Okay, great. Okay, now we'll come back. And I'm going to restart the timer. Hold on. Okay. Keto Chow is an easy-to-use meal replacement shake that's designed for low sugar and low carb, but is suitable for anyone looking for a mix of protein. I gotta get the page up. Protein, vitamins, and minerals, but with limited sugar. Keto Chow comes in over 30 flavors, including classic favorites like strawberry, banana, cookies and cream, with some more specialized flavors like lemon meringue, blueberry pie, and gingerbread. My wife's personal favorite is snickerdoodle. She loves the snickerdoodle. What's your favorite? You tried it. What's your favorite flavor?
The intro music is playing. People are saying the intro music.
Oh, Jesus. I don't know how that happened. Well, that's not
so
fair.
Let's start that over.
Okay. We're going to do this right. I have to change the title, too. Do I take the... Oh, yeah. Hang on. Okay, there we go. Okay, here we go. We're going to do this.
Maybe it was prepared, but only half prepared. All right.
That's so typical for me, too. Well, it's my first... I'm new here. Don't be mad. Where's my freaking ad spot button?
Like that, if you were your own employee, boy, you'd be in a lot of trouble.
I'm not, though. Ad break out. Okay, here we go. What are you trying to say?
All right.
Keto Chow is an easy-to-use meal replacement shake that's designed for low sugar and low carb, but it's suitable for anyone looking for a mix of protein, vitamins, and minerals, but with limited sugar. Keto Chow comes in over 30 flavors, including classic favorites like strawberry, banana, and cookies and cream, with some more specialized flavors like lemon meringue, blueberry pie, and gingerbread. My wife's favorite is in fact snickerdoodle. That's not in the script, and I did want to know, what's your favorite? You've tried it.
I've got quite a few, but caramel macchiato is probably...
Caramel macchiato. Most people mix it up like a shake with water and heavy cream, but you can use melted butter, coconut oil, avocado oil, or any other fat that you like. A single shake mixes up in about 30 seconds and stores in the fridge for up to 6 days, so they're great for people who don't have the time to make elaborate meals 3 times a day. And it is better if you make them like 24 hours before and leave them in the fridge overnight to kind of marinate. The flavors are better that way. The recipe's open source. You like open source? Keto Chow's open source. And the creator did an experiment where he ate only Keto Chow for 100 days and published blood tests, food logs, and loads of other data on his blog. You can read more about Keto Chow at the link in the video description below, ketochow.xyz/ref/FPV news. That link will also give you 34% off a first-time order of the starter kits. So check out ketochow.xyz/ref/FPV news. For 34% off your starter kit. There's the Essentials starter kit, the Premium, or the Elite starter kit. Elite starter kit.
Make sure you use our link so that we get credit for it.
Absolutely. Link in the video description. Or you could type this link in if you are a weirdo like that. Either way, go buy it. But if you don't use that link, then we don't get credit for this ad break, and we certainly want that. Should also say, I also want to point out, the sponsor segment has just ended. Now that the sponsor segment has ended, we can tell you what we really think. Chris is a FPV pilot. He's in my Discord. It was a complete coincidence that he is also the founder of Keto Chow. One day we were just talking about FPV, and he was like, hey, you know, you interested in, thanks for helping me out. You interested in keto, Chow? And I was like, well, I don't eat keto, but my wife eats keto. She was at the time. Yeah, she buys a bunch of keto chow. I was like, that's my company. So that's how this ended up happening. Anyway, if anybody in the chat bought keto chow last week, then tell us what you thought of it in the chat. Chris is here. Chris is in the Discord and in the chat. And I'm sure he'd love to know what you think. Okay. Yeah. That went smoothly. I'll get better, I promise. What's our next story? Our next story is going to be the first Sbang video ever.
Yes.
Yeah. And usually, Blunty, when a news title ends with a question mark, the answer is no. It's not the first Sbang video ever. But I sincerely believe this might be. If you know of an earlier one, you tell me. Check this out. I'm not going to play the music, but this is Odyssey by MXM 6 years ago. Tell me this isn't Sbang. Tell me this isn't Sbang. What do you think, Blunty? Does it look like Sbang to you?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the wrong person. I'll just be right up front. I'm the wrong person to answer that question. But yeah, I mean, it does look like what I've seen Sbang to be.
Yeah. It's got that sort of twitchy back and forth. It is clearly like an early version of Sbang. It hasn't fully developed into what Sbang eventually would develop. But I think it's recognizably Sbang. Many of the movements and aspects are very Spangy. And I cannot believe that it was 6 years ago. Like these little back forth twitches. The beginning was more Spangy. This is getting a little more flowy. This is actually a pretty good freestyle for 6 years ago, to be honest with you. What a great location, too. Jeez. It's so interesting to me to see, like, where things might have come from. What it was like before it was the thing that it became. Anyway. I found this on Facebook and I was like so intrigued that I was like, yes, we're going to share this. D-Rec FPV. Been looking for this video ever since Sbang style flying became popular. You were the first. I feel like there's some truth to that. Where is this location? Do we know?
For people that don't know what Sbang is, how would you define Sbang other than saying what it's doing?
I mean, should we just is Marius a Sbang pilot? Who's a good... I mean, I'm going to insult whoever I didn't play. Like, Sbang is an extremely dynamic... God, Marius is so good. It's very precise. This is almost flowy Sbang. Lots of sort of locks. Isolations, if you will. How about Farouk?
It's not Sam says stick bang, lower rates, full stick deflection. Does that sound about right?
That seems right. Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not one to define Sbang. Farouk's very good. These are some Sbang pilots. Sbang, I think, is often done in a field around trees. It's not necessarily done proximity to obstacles as much as some other styles. Now, some people have conjectured that Sbang was invented by people who didn't have, like, urban canyons to fly in. They just had sort of prairies with trees and needed to make it interesting. So good. Also, kind of... anyway, this is Sbang. Also kind of difficult for some people to watch, perhaps. Air Richie. Yeah, anybody who does Sbang in a bando is the king. So, okay. What's next, Blunty?
All right. Next up is the cinematic of the week, which we don't always have, but we had a good one that we wanted to bring you from FalconRad FPV, and this is actually submitted by somebody else telling me about FalconRad's video. So pretty cool stuff. This is a drone flight in a dangerous crevasse, is what he says, inches from ice. Is what,
okay. Well,
name of the video.
This is an 11-minute video. You have a highlight that we should go to?
You could kind of just pop in there somewhere at like 3, 4, or 5 minutes and see some cool flying.
Into the glacial crevasse. Okay, I don't want to ruin the money moment of the video for him. I'd really like people to go check out FalconRad and give them the clicks and the subs. So let's go a little earlier. We're also not going to play any music in case it's copyrighted music. We don't want to get copyrighted. We'll play just a little bit of this. We'll let it go for a little bit because it's an 11-minute video, so we're not going to ruin it by showing 2 or 3 minutes. And people can go check out the whole thing as they like. There's a link in the video description below. Ooh,
just a reminder, if you're in the JB Discord, I always provide the links and everything, the show notes while we're doing the show in the live stream chat channel, so you can follow along with the links without, kind of live.
Yeah, one of many advantages to being in the Discord. I wonder if he's got his exposure locked. It's odd to me that the camera didn't open up the exposure here. And we don't see exposure adjustment as he comes up to the sun. I wonder if he's locked his exposure. That would be interesting if he had.
I would say maybe he knows he's flying in some really dark places.
Yeah,
maybe he needs it up.
Yeah. Interesting. Oh, we're following this up. Let's fast forward a little bit. Into the glacial crevasse. I mean, what do you want? What more do you want? Wow.
Also, for anyone who doesn't remember, this is the camera, so obviously not his feed. He talks about fighting video a lot through this. At one point, he goes under an ice ridge, and he literally loses video under the ice ridge. So,
is there a place where people can see his FPV feed?
I'm not sure if he shows it. He might show a little bit of it in another follow-up video he has, where he goes a little more in depth to this. He just published that on his video, on his channel.
Wow! Whoa! That's pretty badass. I mean, that's just like the abyss. Jeez. That's amazing.
Cool stuff. So thanks to FalconRad FPV for that great video. Don't forget to go check out FalconRad FPV. Give them a sub and a like and all those kind of things.
Yeah, for sure. The video I saw said all the feet, said Ramdonko. Drone Droid says there's a bit of pick and pick showing DVR. Well, head on over to FalconRad's channel and check them out. They probably got more stuff there. Very, very cool. Let's see. Oh, great timing. Next up, we got the Super Chats. We always like to read Super Chats.
No, next up, we have an event. We have events.
Damn it. I thought we already did the event. Wow. Go ahead.
Next up, we have events. And the only event we have today.
It's because it's highlighted. Go ahead.
The only event we have today is to tell you about Quadmafia's FPV Palooza. And that's a little ways out. We want to give you a heads up so you could get it scheduled and figured out. If you're near Eagle River, Wisconsin, there is going to be an event. That's a free event open to all pilots on August 6th, 7th, and 8th. You can check out the FPV Palooza. There's going to be some folks there hanging out and flying some quads, and starts at 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. each day. Like we said, entry is free. So you can hang out with some pilots and do some flying and all kinds of stuff.
Nice. Very nice. Always like to see a free event.
Yeah.
All right. Now it's time for the Super Chats. Man, I'm off my game today, Blunty. I don't know what my excuse is. I don't have an excuse. We're going to read Super Chats. There's only one Super Chat. Aaron Johnson, thank you for a $5 Super Chat. 25K seems like a tiny amount to throw your law career away for. Maybe James would consider posting his case number. Go ahead.
There were 11 counts that we saw listed in that the disbarring, and they listed over $250,000 as the number without specific values. I mean, presumably he didn't wake up one morning and go, I know, I will throw my whole career away for stealing this money. Presumably he's been stealing money, assuming that the accusations are true, which of course we don't know. But a person in that situation would have been stealing money for a long time and gotten away with it. And they would just have kept doing whatever they were doing with the assumption that they would keep their career. And then eventually it catches up with you and, then you get disbarred in lieu of disciplinary action.
So, yes. I don't think he threw away his law career for $25K or $250K. I think he assumed that he was going to keep stealing and keep his law career. But, these things happen.
Yep.
That is our only super chat. Let's go ahead with It's Barely News. We got some quick items that we don't have a lot to say about, but we think you'll be interested to know and hear about them.
And sometimes we do end up having a lot to say about, but we'll find out.
That's true. Then they turn into a rant. First one. Suction cupping tags to whales with drones. I mean, what more do you want out of a headline?
Yeah. It's pretty self-explanatory at this point. Basically they launch a drone and then drop a suction cup right on the whale. So they talk about how these whales are typically scared by boats, and then having people out there is kind of not really practical, like single people and stuff. Mm-hmm. So now within a kilometer, they can just fly their drone out to the whale, not scare them or spook them in any way, really, because the drone doesn't do much to them, and then they can get that sensor dropped right on them.
S equals 3 meters. Yeah. We just dropped the suction cup on the whale with a drone from 3 meters away. Brilliant. Just chuck that Mavic in the air or whatever it is. Yeah. Just thinking about putting a suction cup on other, like if you have a dog that needs rescuing, send a drone over there. What about Henry? We put a suction cup on Henry with a drone?
I don't know that hair works well with suction cups.
That's true.
Maybe like one of those naked chihuahuas.
Yeah, we could shave him just for science. No, we wouldn't. Okay. We wouldn't do that. We wouldn't do that. Thank you, Black Jungle, for the meme. Okay, next up, inflatable drones.
Yeah, so this is kind of a neat idea. There's these. Basically, they've developed these little inflatable drone suits that go on drones and then help them survive in crashes because they basically inflate.
Oh, my God. Do I get to see it in real time in like slow-mo? Please.
Yeah, they'll show you a couple examples here.
Aggressive manual wall collision tests. I'm down. I'm so down for this. Oh, yeah. Hit that wall. Oh, that was anticlimactic. Oh, here we go. Oh. It's not going to like blow up like a balloon or something?
No, I think it's inflated and that's what causes it to not like the give is not going to cause any like stress fracturing or changes in the material because it's inflated. I think that's the idea behind it.
I see. I guess that's cool. I thought it was going
to like how like animals have like soft tissue and then causes absorption.
I thought it was going to be like those airbags for motorcyclists that when they hit the ground, they just go. That's what I was hoping for. I'm a little disappointed. Quite. No. All right. Well,
there's another example. Cool. There's another example if you want to look at the second video down there. It's kind of neat. It's called reactive perching. And essentially they use these inflatables to sort of like a grabber to like react to contact and then perch onto the bar. Similar to those like claws we looked at previously. Oh,
that's pretty cool. It inflates and grabs.
Like 3D, we looked at 3D printed claws that are kind of like that, but now it can do this basically through contact because it's inflated and deflated.
What the hell is going on with their PID tune? Do you see this? Look how jittery that quad is. What's going on there?
I'm guessing they're working on figuring out, logistics of the stuff before they figure out how to make it stop shaking on the arms.
Get your PID tune right. That doesn't look good at all.
Yeah, but remember the arms are in these inflatable things. Like they might not be able to stop shaking, because they're.
They don't have like some carbon in there or something. It's purely inflated.
Yeah, but is the motor on the carbon? Because if the motor contacted something, that it wouldn't fall with the inflatable part, right?
Oh.
So.
Well, that's interesting. I thought it was just an inflatable pad around a carbon fiber arm. You're saying the whole arm is inflated.
I believe at least that's part of the idea they're doing here, yeah. Maybe wrong. I may be wrong.
That's interesting. Inflatable frame. No, it's a full inflatable frame. Wow.
Roberta says, why is the balloon so jittery? Because the motor's strapped to a balloon.
Makes sense. All right, I forgive their shitty pig tune now that I know that the whole frame is inflated. Yep. All right. What's next, Blunty?
Okay. Next up, MIT is using liquid neural networks to fly drones. And that's a thing that I just heard of when I heard about the story. You're on the next story if you want to go to the one before that.
Dang it. What's my problem? No. Oh, man. Dang it. Sorry, Blunty. I'm going to get fired. Go ahead.
Yeah, so they're using these, what they call liquid neural networks to help drones navigate in these different circumstances. Basically, they're supposed to be modeling brains, like organic brains, with these neural networks.
So this drone is following this dude.
But I can't tell you what that actually means. So it's in barely news.
Yeah, okay. If we actually knew anything about it, we would put it in the news. I mean, this drone is really menacing this guy. I kind of want to see. I want to see. Like, I'm imagining the guy going, "Huh," and the drone's like,
yeah.
All right. Oh, that's pretty cool. We're following this guy. All right.
I mean, to me, all I'm going to say, to me, this sounds just like what they've been doing with neural networks already. So I don't know why this is different, but it was different enough for an article. MIT put it out, so we figured we'd let you know what's happening in case it's important.
It's a liquid neural network. That's the difference.
A liquid neural network.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Glad I could help. Okay. Continue.
Next up, we got the first U.S. agricultural drone approved. I believe this is going to be sort of in competition with the DJI Agris-style drones. But this is the first one from a U.S. manufacturer with U.S. parts and assembly. And they've already got a ton of orders ready. So, yeah, we'll see another basically push forward into the aerial crop space with this new Guardian SC1 eVTOL.
Wow, 100 million in orders. That's impressive.
If you didn't know already, basically DJI has had the Agris drone line, which is like a spraying / like farming, scanning. Basically, like it can fly over areas and through color and thermal imaging can tell like if crops are sick or like development. There's all kinds of stuff they can do with them. One of the things is spraying and doing automated passes and all that kind of stuff. And this is going to be a solution for that from a U.S. company. One of the things we've seen, and I'm curious to find out how this works out, is that U.S. solutions are typically more expensive and work more poorly. So I'll be interested to know what people's responses are to these, since they seem to have a lot of pre-sales, and a lot of people are looking forward to picking these up.
Yeah. Well, very interesting.
Yeah.
All righty. We got some more Mars-related drone news.
Man-related drone news, actually.
Wow.
Man's remains. Man's remains were located by drone.
Wow. There's going to be about the Discovery rover.
We're
just going to let you do it from here on out, Plenty.
Okay. Yeah, so basically they had sort of given up searching for this guy, or at least they had searched for him, but unfortunately the area was really swampy and hard to get to where they thought he might be. So they were kind of not really doing great, and they were running out of time because the season was changing. So one of the guys went out with his drone in the local area with it's the conservation officer in the area with their new department drone, went through some of the swampy areas and were able to locate his shoe near the area where they thought he might be, and that led them to locate skeletal remains, which they believe to be this guy. Everything matches up. They just are waiting on DNA.
Well, I'm sure that's a very good closure for his family, and another example of drones doing something positive, which we of course always want to cover here on the news.
Yep.
Now this next one I talked with you about before the news began, so we're going to see if I can intro it correctly. Express LRS there's an example of an Express LRS build running on 433 megahertz, which would be big news, Blunty. because 433 can go like, 50 miles on 10 milliwatts or something preposterous, But the reason it's just barely news is we don't really know anything else about it. How would you put it?
I would say it's kind of already been a thing, and this is just a guy who decided to pull out, I believe it's a TTGo module with 433 capability, and then, use the firmware to do 433. So ExpressLRS, for people who don't know, I believe the first ExpressLRS project was 433 LoRa, and then it advanced into 900 and 2.4 for the reasons that we use 900 and 2.4. But this user decided to revive 433 and check out distance, and got, some crazy distance there. We saw... what exactly was that? I was going to look. It's 50 kilometers. Is that right?
Yeah, 45 kilometers at 10 milliwatts is what he says on the post.
Yeah, 45 kilometers at 10 milliwatts. And then he said he was not in an ideal takeoff location either for that. So yeah, that's pretty neat.
This is a big deal because 433, being a much lower frequency, goes further. Right, that's a thing, but then this is a big deal because unlike previous 433 systems like Dragon Link comes to mind, which I believe that uses FSK. Are you able to confirm or deny or don't know?
Oh, I don't.
Okay,
do not know.
It uses an older style of modulation. This is 433 megahertz LoRa, so just like ExpressLRS 2.4 gigahertz goes 10 times as far as FreeSky 2.4 gigahertz. You've got the extreme long range of 433 and the extreme long range of LoRa all in one. It's a big freaking deal. But this was this is nothing new. ExpressLRS has always supported 433. It's just there hasn't been a commercial 433 solution, and I guess there still isn't.
Which is why this isn't barely news. Also, if you consider how far you can actually go on 900 or even on 2.4, 900 approaches the curvature of the Earth within heights that are reasonable for most people, right?
Yeah.
So I think that this is definitely a limited application for people. Maybe people need lower power. In the EU, I know there's power limits. Also, in some places, people are allowed to fly higher than they are in the US. US is only 400 feet. So maybe there are applications for these. But right now we don't have commercial hardware. And maybe we will see it, but I'm not sure if manufacturers think there's a demand or if users actually have a demand for it. I'd be interested to know.
Yeah. I think the big app, and of course, people who actually fly 433 can chime in and tell me if I'm wrong. I think the big application of 433 is, first of all, that the telemetry link can be really far. So for people who need bidirectional telemetry for ground station software, 433 is an all-in-one solution. And the other thing is that on ground links, I wonder if 433 would get you more range and penetration through obstacles if you're doing something like a car. But then you have to solve the video link problem, of course, and that's separate. Anyway, very cool to see Mohammed Adib doing this solution. A little 3D printed case and a 433 test unit. And, who knows what'll come from that. One more.
The last that's barely news we got for you today is going to be a lost dog. Sometimes we like to finish it off with some dog rescues, and today is no different. We got a lost dog. Figgy has been found after falling 100 feet at Thor's cave, and they used a drone to find him.
No, the dog fell 100 feet? Is the dog okay?
Yeah, he made it out. Good. He's all good to go.
Oh, wow. You really need a thermal camera for that one. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, Figgy's back home with his family.
Oh. Look, he's just waiting. He's just patiently waiting. Yeah.
Sure, his family provided many sausages.
Oh, I assume so. Yeah. That's fantastic. Man, those thermal cameras really make a big difference, don't they? Jeez.
They definitely do.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, there's one more thing we're going to do before we wrap up, and that's plug you, Blunty, because you're not like a sponsor of the show. You are the show. And if anybody wants to get some help with troubleshooting their quad, ItsBlunty is available. $50 an hour, flat rate, more than fair. In fact, you've had that rate for a long time now. Inflation, Blunty. Now, $50 an hour, flat rate. They'll get on a Zoom call with you and help you solve your problems. It definitely...
Absolutely.
Definitely want to put that here. Hang on a second.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sponsor segment for you. No.
All right. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So, just like you said, I'm happy to help anybody over chat. But yeah, if you need to get on a one-on-one with me, I'm happy to schedule it and get it there for $50 an hour and answer your questions.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. You've had a lot of business in the last week or two. What kind of questions have you helped people with, if you don't mind sharing?
A lot of it has, just been set up. Express LRS, always struggling. People are always struggling with Express LRS, unfortunately. Express LRS, we love to love it, but also sometimes we love to hate it, because sometimes you get bad hardware. You got to figure stuff out. Recently, I've been helping a user struggle with a Happy Model ES24TX, which unfortunately... So if anybody doesn't know, the latest version of Express LRS Configurator, at least as of yesterday, does not build properly. It has platform I/O errors. So if you think you're doing something wrong, it's not you, it's the configurator. So you want to roll back to 155 from 156. So it's similar to when Agent X is broken and you just don't know what to do. This is a similar case. So yeah, don't if you have platform I/O problems, consider rolling back.
I need to pay you $50 because I might actually have somebody in my inbox who is having this problem. And I sometimes people can't get Express LRS configured. Like there's some problem with their computer and platform I/O just barfs. And I was like, I don't know, man. I might have told them, hey, try rolling back a version, because that's what I do when it won't install. But
the other thing for people to know is if you get a TX on 2.0, then you need to flash 2.5.2, then the repartitioner, then 3.x. And a lot of people get confused because they think they could just repartition and go forward, or just go forward, but you'll get errors doing that. You need to flash 2.5.2, then the repartitioner, then 3. So.
Hey, look what I just found. Hi, Jay. If ELRS configurator can't install platform I/O, I don't know what to do. But sometimes you uninstall ELRS and roll down to an older version. And he says, yep, I did that. That worked 1 day ago. Boom!
Nice.
Yes! My random guess turned out to be right. Yes! Super excited. All right, folks. That is going to wrap us up on the FPV news. I will try to do better next time. I don't know, I was just getting stories out of order. Screwing up I don't know what my problem is. But
it's okay.
Yeah, well, hopefully.
Well,
thank you guys for being here and sticking with us.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we'll see you guys again on Sunday for the Q&A stream, where I'm now helping you as in a producer role, so you guys can get your questions answered over there. Monday we'll be back again for the Q&A stream, and then Tuesday we'll be back for the news.
That's right. We will see you there, but that's going to do it for today. But good night, everybody.
Thanks, guys.